How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. My name is Sam Holcman, and the topic today is confirmation bias is back again, and now it's reared its head with artificial intelligence. And it seems like this is a repeating pattern because the people in the technology world seem to be leading with solutions rather than figuring out what is required or what the business opportunity or problem is. This has been around for quite some time, and it happened with enterprise architecture, business architecture, cloud computing, and already we're seeing the same thing here with artificial intelligence. So let me first define this term if you're not familiar with the concept of confirmation bias. It's actually pretty straightforward. Confirmation bias is it's an unconscious tendency. In other words, nobody is probably doing it deliberately, or also, although some may, unconscious tendency to attract more weight than should be to information that is consistent with a specific belief or hypotheses, and to discount information that contradicts them. And this happens all the time in our universe, and not just in technology, but in the way we conduct things. And it's so subtle sometimes. So let me give you some examples that you may have seen in the past in some of our broadcasts. So for example, here is a biased phrase. We are issuing a request for proposal for the XYZ methodology, XYZ enterprise architecture methodology, or the XYZ business architecture methodology. We've already put into the request for proposal the specific solution that we're looking for. Now, here's an example of an unbiased phrase, and you'll see how subtle it is. We're issuing a request for enterprise architecture understanding and enablement for the purpose of ensuring that our business and mission strategies can be met. In other words, there is no specific solution in there. And sometimes we use the phrase in the past, it's a solution looking for a problem or opportunity. So once again, confirmation bias, what is it? It is the unconscious tendency to attract more weight than we should to information that is consistent with our belief and hypotheses, and to discount information that contradicts them. And of course, with the Wild West that we call the internet, and all of these biases that occur, and people generate all sorts of, and you've seen it too, reviews and things like that, and are turning out to be false. It's sort of like, how do you get on the top of one of these so-called search engines? Well, you get enough people pointing to you, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. And what we have to recognize is that how do you know that a target solution, if you're starting with that, will address what you're trying to achieve? This is the real question. So starting with a solution, it doesn't matter if it's AI, doesn't matter if it's business architecture, enterprise architecture, or cloud computing. For example, cloud first. That may be a good approach, but you're starting with a solution. We're going to put stuff in the cloud. Any questions? Well, what is the issue or opportunity that we're trying to address? So instead of going from architecture to implementation or solution, what we're doing is the other way around. We have a solutioning, that is going on. So what we have to recognize that there is no punishment, there is no penalty for coming up with a solution that is not optimized for your business. It takes time for you to say, wait a minute, what the heck did we do here? It's going to take some time. So you can see how important architecture is well before looking at a specific solution. And by the way, I know that this may hurt. It may not be AI at all. It may be something, totally different. And when people call themselves architects, they have to recognize that the word architect is different than solution. I know that sounds silly. So solution architecting comes after architecting of what needs to be done, which is business or enterprise architecture. It's not one or the other, it's both. So if you're calling yourself an AI architect, what you're actually being is an AI implementation specialist, which is great. It's got to be done. So we already see, once again, in the early stages of this new situation that we're all hearing about, artificial intelligence, that confirmation bias is creeping in again. The easiest way to recognize this is look at the statement that is being made. And if the solution is in the statement, you're biasing the possible outcomes. And that's where real enterprise architecture or real business architecture really plays a role. And the word real, R-E-A-L, in our universe has meaning. R, realistic. E, enabling. A, actionable. L, logical. And if your architecture is not R-E-A-L, it's probably geared toward implementation, unfortunately. So again, you won't see the issue for quite some time, but again, you're biasing the possibilities that are out there. These are long-term solutions, long-term commitments, and multi-million-dollar or $100 million bets. A little bit of investment up front can be kind of important. Hope this makes sense. Until next time, stay healthy, stay well, and it'll be our pleasure, of course, to speak with you.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.